to the Poetry of Justice show with JackieRay Phillips on YikesRadio.com and AccelerateRadio.net. Now here on the Poetry of Justice show, this is where social consciousness meets the arts. And what we do is we select topics that spark the interest and awareness of social diversity, ranging from arts, entertainment, and social justice at large, leaving our listeners thinking and saying, yikes! Now, those are the sultry sounds of my mentor, the Mr. Kevin Nash, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Kevin Nash is the owner of this proprietorship here at the Accelerated Radio and YikesRadio.com. So I always give a very special shout out to Mr. Nash, because if it wasn't for Mr. Nash and his dreams and passions, it would be impossible for me to do what I so very much love to do, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'm going to give a very special shout out to my mentor and my benefactor, Miss Lori Ray Fisher. How are you doing tonight, Lori G?
I am doing great. Excited. Excited.
Yeah. I call Lori the benefactor. She makes sure everything stays going and healthy and strong here on the POJ show, ladies and gentlemen. And then I like to give a very special shout out to G Babies Catering. That's GBABBIES Catering. That is Chef Mac, ladies and gentlemen, my nephew. So guys, I want you to check him out on Instagram. Again, Chef Mac with G Babies Catering, ladies and gentlemen. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I always like to give a very special shout out to the Man of Steel sponsor here, Mr. WMPJ Steelworks, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a shout out. And then also want to give a very special shout out to APS Muscle Cars, ladies and gentlemen. Some good stuff he's doing over there.
He said, no, I want the
Rashid, so much. And what we've got is some vehicle storage, high-end vehicle restoration. So if you need someplace safe for your high-end car, even if it's low-end, this is the dude you want to talk to. Memo, MEMO, APS musclecars.com, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a good night, Lord G. You excited?
I am excited. It's going to be a great night.
Yeah, what you talking about tonight, baby doll?
Tonight, guys, as you can see from our virtual backgrounds, we're talking about voting tonight, guys. November 3rd will be here before we know it.
It is going to be an interesting night here, ladies and gentlemen. The Poetry of Justice show, YikesRadio.com, AccelerateRadio.net. And this show is sponsored by the amazing ladies of the chat, ladies and gentlemen. And those individual gorgeous beauties are on the panel tonight. That is Miss Shelley C., Tanya Michelle, and Lori G. Thank you so much, ladies of the chat, for being in the studio tonight. We have an intense panel. I'm intimidated. Ooh, YikesRadio.com. I'm just looking at everyone on the panel tonight. But what we're going to be talking about is Vote 2020. So I'd like to give just our names first on who we have on our panel tonight, and then we'll do formal introductions and little backgrounds, do a little icebreaker. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have with us Miss Lori Rucker rejoining the show. She's been with us once before, and so Lori's going to join us tonight. We also have the amazing Miss Virginia Ross. Virginia's been with us here on the Poetry of Justice show, but not necessarily in such a serious capacity, as we have our election nearing very, very soon. And then, of course, we have our engineer in the house, Rashid. He's always that voice of reason, that solid anchor. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to welcome back to the show, of course, Miss Chris Fisher. Miss Chris Fisher, if you will, is our spiritual voice here on the Poetry of Us Justice show, with a lot of religion. So we can always make sure we're grounded with Miss Chris Fisher. And then we also have joining the show tonight the amazing Miss Miko Aaliyah Phillips. Thank you so much, Miss Miko Phillips, for being in the house tonight with us. And then, of course, you know, we've got Mr. Big Tap from Big Tap Promotions. How you doing, Tapper?
You have to unmute yourself, Tap.
He's got to unmute himself, but it's okay, ladies and gentlemen. We got Big Tap in the house. But this show right here, I just wanted to bring us in and get us established, and I'm going to jump in and do what I do, how I do it. But I just wanted to hand it over to my sissy, because Miss Lori G has done a great deal of work tonight, and the ladies of the chat. And let's see what we got to do. Vote 2020. Ladies of the chat, what's happening?
What's up? Hey now.
Well, don't be scared. Talk. We talk back.
Good to be here, ladies. Good to be here.
Okay, shucks. If y'all ain't gonna say that, go ahead, Lori Dog.
So, the ladies of the chat, I think it was Tanya Michelle who brought this idea up to say, hey, way back in July, we had a show and Lori Rucker was on our show and we talked about our civic obligations and supporting and uplifting our communities and levels of awareness, and that voting would be a topic that we could really go through. And Tanya Michelle remembered that and said, hey, we're running out of time. November 3rd is going to be here before we know it. So let's take the chat show, and the ladies of the chat agreed that we're going to kind of go through all of our propositions, go through the presidential candidates, and then we all have different local officials that we may want to talk about and bring up. But I researched all the propositions for the state of California. And so I thought what I could do is kind of go through them in levels of, I guess, notoriety, the ones that are getting the most coverage first, and then kind of just have a chance to talk a little bit about that. How does that sound, ladies? Sound like a good flow for us tonight?
Good. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So first we have Proposition 15. And Proposition 15, oh, we have a caller, maybe. How exciting. Yeah, caller? No?
You ready now?
Okay, guys, we have a caller. Let's see who's on with us.
Hello, we have a caller. Thank you for calling the Poetry Justice Show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. How you guys doing?
Oh my God, we're great. Could you say who is this? Who's calling?
This is Robin Martell,
Hey,
QT. A lot of people call me in the industry call me QT.
oh Robert, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How y'all doing, man?
We're doing good, Lori. This is from Facebook, Robin Mortel.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Robin.
Robin, baby.
Oh,
Robin.
Robin. Okay, thank you.
Pretty
I
good.
apologize
How you
for
doing?
that. I'm doing good.
What's going on tonight? What you guys talking about?
We're going to be talking about voting, Vote 2020. So we're going to be talking about
Okay.
voting, and we was actually going to throw a little bit of the Ice Cube situation in there with his discussions with the Trump campaign. So I don't know if you've heard anything about that, Robin, or
I know Cube. I don't know if you've been following me on Facebook, but I've been on everybody's head about that.
See what you think? Talk to us, Robin.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of people are speaking on something that they really know nothing about. Even myself, we don't really know exactly what was discussed in there. We at some point we're all working for somebody white. I don't care how you want to put it, because that don't mean I might not like their agenda, but I like their check. If that makes any sense. So the thing is this. I know Cube, and what I mean by that is that we have some we're connected to certain organizations that I know what his mindset is. I deal with the Nation of Islam, and then so Cube, he was at some point. His road manager was the FOI for a long time. So I'm simply saying all that to say, Cube is aware of what's going on in terms of what we need and what's going on and the problems that we're having. Now, I would rather have Cube in there. If I can't go in there and talk for myself, I would trust Cube to talk on my behalf. I would. Everybody keeps talking about he's in a certain tax bracket and he's getting some out of it. Hell yeah! If I'm in that position and on that platform, I'm gonna get some out of it too if I could. But I'm still gonna do as much as I can to plant a seed or to change the dynamic or the narrative of how they're getting down with us.
So I don't mean to interrupt, Robin, but Cuba is already benefiting from the tax laws that were created by this administration.
Okay, he earned that though.
So that's irrelevant. But what is being brought to the forefront is one thing that I agree that Cube said was that, hey, I'm trying to make a deal that's in writing so something happens versus people talking left and right and selling whoop tickets, right? So that's one thing that's positive from this situation. But given the administration record, I don't think he speaks for me as a Black American, as a Black woman, as a woman that is has a family, and history is we bring people to the polls. So I don't know if he was the right person to take it to the table.
Was one of the most well-known and
To
respected.
piggyback off of what Lori is saying, which I 100% agree with, I believe that Ice Cube is not necessarily the right person to do this. And also, I don't think he read the room. He didn't recognize the political climate that we're in and which administrations he's proposing this deal to. Now, obviously, both the Democratic and the Republican Party does not care about Black people. That is just apparent. It's just a historic thing. We are, in fact, kind of stuck with voting for the Democratic Party. It's kind of a lesser of two evils situation.
Correct.
Now, his intent was there. However, his execution was very poor. When you are working with a man who's as narcissistic as Donald Trump, you have to know that you're going to be used as bait, and you are going to be used as he was basically used. So he has us looking kind of wild right now, and no one asked him for it. No one asked him to send out this
Who has us looking wild?
Because
we finally got rid of Kanye West. Like, come on. And then you barely got rid of Kanye. Come on now.
You're not going to see Cube running around here with a Make America Great hat again.
Now, I think Cube, I understand his intention, but at the end of the day, I believe that we have to understand the power and the levity our voices carry when we're in the public eye, right? And so we always have to be looking for that potentiality of being misinterpreted, misunderstood, right? Because homeboy in the hood who loves Ice Cube believes the narrative that they hear that Cube is now down for Trump. And so now that's going to skew and change all of the votes that could potentially make a difference. So I just think Ice Cube, and I'm a big Ice Cube fan, have loved him since 16 years old, Ice Cube fan. But I'm just saying, I think his timing was off.
I think he's a better representative than Cardi B. I'll say that.
Okay,
come on, brother. What were you saying?
You were saying better representative than Cardi B, Robin. What do you
Okay, I disagree. I disagree with that one.
What's the deal? Of course.
So, what Cardi B?
Sorry. Go ahead, Mika.
I'm saying, like, Cardi B, granted, she may not be this. Okay, she's just openly sexually free. That's how she gets now, and that's her business. Totally fine. But at the end of the day, she does hold a lot of like reasonable arguments. If you listen to her speak and what she's talking about, it makes sense. It's better than what Donald Trump is doing. It makes sense. So she's not necessarily a bad representative, and I feel like that was a very sexist thing to say.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know what Cardi B said.
I don't know. We need to look that one up.
No, because if you listen to when she was going back and forth with Candace Owen, literally Candace Owen tore her a new one.
Really?
Yeah. Candace tore her a new one.
You talk about Candace?
Yes.
Yeah, Candace is pretty raw.
Yeah.
I think she's being used by the Republican Party as well. You know, she has some valid.
Let me share something with you, please, if I may. The thing is this: when Omarosa was up in there, they used her. I don't think Cube is as naive and as uneducated on this situation as y'all would probably think he is. And what I mean by that is that I'm sure he has enough sense to have been to take people who have experience in that field in there with him or be advised with them. He didn't walk up in there by himself. You know what I'm saying?
But Robin, what we're saying though is that I don't think go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah. First of all, he didn't walk up in there. No. He has not even met one of them. He presented a
They did. Okay.
So let's get that clear. He has not talked to anyone. And the reason why I say that is because it came out of his mouth. I didn't read it in no article. I wasn't watching no social media. He said it with himself that he did not talk to anyone. He presented a contract to both parties, is what he did.
Girl from our Zoom room says, yes, we have to play chess, not checkers. And that is very true, Cheryl. We have to play chess, not checkers. What do you think about that, Tanya Michelle?
Fights leading up to it.
I think that's important. So you need to know that you need to register to vote. There's a couple important dates, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. Last day to register to vote is October 19th. October 19th to vote online, last day. October 27th is the last day to request your mail-in ballot. So I think we need to get busy. we really need to get busy. And if you have family members in
Absolutely.
other states, please call them, send them information to just get out and vote. Like everybody has to vote.
Junior welterweight division.
The same energy we used in trying getting Obama in there, we need to use that same energy to get him out of there.
Steve Weiss.
Man, that part right there. Right?
Absolutely.
You know?
Agree.
Yeah, so you guys, what do you guys think we're looking at, though? Are we
I
looking
think
at?
Tanya Michelle had
I'm
a
sorry.
comment. Tanya?
No, I was just saying, I totally, it's a lot of background noise, so you guys can mute if we're not speaking.
Of 17 wins,
Or
with
probably
only one defeat. 9 of those victories coming by way of knockout. From Isa, Puerto Rico, now representing the Bronx, New York, Josue, the Prodigy, Vargas. Across the ring in the red corner, he weighed in at 142 pounds.
Who's watching
Are you guys
basketball?
still there? Okay.
Now, go ahead,
getting
Tanya
something.
Michelle.
Feedback or something.
No, I think Lori, I agree with the whole panel, and I think my whole concern with Ice Cube, and then we can close this up because I know you have a lot of content to get to, is that when you are in a public eye, you really have to be careful what you say. And because of the race, it comes across that he's representing our voices. And that's a concern that I have. And I think there's a certain level of, just all across the race, a certain level of intelligence to understand, the whole dynamic behind the politics. And if people are not understanding, and Ice Cube gets on and just say it's Proposition 14, and I don't understand it. And Ice Cube gets on and was like, you know what, we should do yes on Proposition 14 because this is what it did to, my grandma or whatever. I'm going to say, okay, Ice Cube is well searched. He has a lot of money to, have political gain. He's knowledgeable. He hasn't done anything to make me look at him differently. I'm going to vote for him. And so, but what people don't realize is that's still his independent vote. That's just his opinion. Is he using his platform to change the mind of many people? And that's the only thing that I'm concerned about. And like Lori said, I love Ice Cube. He was almost my baby daddy, for real.
You would have to fight me, T.
The knees.
I didn't want to tell Kim, but that's how it goes. But I just think we have to be careful when we speak. Even tonight,
agree with you, sister.
Even tonight when we talk about the proposition, we have to just state the facts that we know them, as we interpret them, and let people make their own decision. But when you're influential, you got to, in the world, you have to be careful. That's my only concern.
I agree. There's a level of responsibility that comes with it, right?
Yeah. But let me ask you guys a question. If Ice Cube had a doctorate or a PhD or something behind his name, would you feel more comfortable with him going there?
Robin. No, Robin, I think you're missing the window. The window is the window is not the intellectual content of what Ice Cube put forward. It has nothing to do with that. I personally believe Ice Cube is one of the smartest individuals around. But what we're talking about is the levity of his voice. Right. And really, just to keep it real and to keep it with the streets, it's giving power to the enemy.
It is.
Because what you've done is you have now allowed the media and the Trump campaign to twist your words.
Exactly.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? So you
To
never
be-
talk to them.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
They're using that narrative.
Yeah, but we've got to be smart enough to not even fool around with them.
Right. I'm not even
because
coming
they
with you.
tweeted immediately after Cube touched base with them. The first thing they did was tweet immediately the Trump campaign. See, this rapper, this black person is for us. They didn't even let it go 5 minutes.
Cube's word, the power of Cube's
Cube
word.
came back and said that it was true, it was false.
Right. He came back, and I appreciate that. But what I'm saying is, the Trump campaign is going to milk this repeatedly, and Ice Cube is not going to be able to put out the number of rebuttals that he would need to refute the irreparable damage the Trump campaign is doing to the Democratic vote.
Yes.
Really though?
And that's to ask.
Don't be a silly hoe, really though.
He was not he was too above himself to know his enemy. And like Chris, I'm gonna steal something that you would say. You know, like the Bible says, you got to be wise as a serpent. And he underestimated. He completely underestimated the intent of the other party and how they were going to use this.
Right.
When you're in a debate, all you have to do is say one word off, and I can take that and run for 5 to 10 minutes. And that might not have been in my intent, but in the midst of talking, you know, something changes or a word comes out wrong. And that's why you have to be prepared when you're in those type of settings. And I think he was not prepared, and he was not the one to make the statement.
And the timing, if you wanted to present something to both parties, why now? Why not on the day of, after everybody voted? Yeah. You know, because
that was strategy. That was very strategic on their behalf.
But he said he wanted to present it to the people that were in the position of power. Right now, the person that is in power is Trump and the administration, and his administration. So you're presenting it now. Why now? Why didn't you present the contracts maybe on the 3rd or the 4th? You know, and of course,
why didn't you? Why not January 15, 2016? If you were all about us, right, and having a voice when Trump got in office, why wasn't there a petition to force or to be recognized in stopping him or pulling the wool over, you know, his off? Because so everybody would know who he is. Because why are you making this move now? And right. I heard I just, you know, watching things, and Roland Martin was very astute in saying that you have to be careful because people get paid to do certain things, and you have to watch. Like he was talking about Candace Owens. He says, you know, she won't debate me. He says, because she has a platform, all it is about hype and about getting out there and pressing the Republican Party's agenda, and that, you know, we're all conservatives and the Democrats have done this and this and that to us. He said, and it's just all about right now for the election to try to sway and turn the Black vote toward the Republican Party and for Trump. So we have to be very careful whose narrative is coming at us.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And because they know, Republicans know that the Black vote is powerful.
Right.
And they know that we're showing up and showing out like we never like we've never done before, because we, as Michelle Obama said, our life depends on this. Right?
Our lives are at stake.
If he was going to bring something to the table, you wait until you wait till somebody who could pay the rent is up in the office. Donald Trump won't be there. So if
let's allow Chris Fisher to speak. She's soft-spoken. She can't jump in with the shark. I know. You got to jump, Chris. You got to jump.
Sit back and relax, and you know what? A space will open up. You know.
I think
he was just all about. He wasn't thinking. He didn't have no wisdom at that point, and you can literally say that it wasn't that, because it's not a. It's a spiritual warfare. So it wasn't about that group that was doing that. He let something use him that he shouldn't have. If he would have had the wisdom that God gave to him, then he would have known to just shut your mouth, you know, and because what you do in secret will be shown out. So when you be quiet, us as Black folks, when we do less talking, that's when you see us in action. That's when the stuff happens, when we do less talking. But he just jumped out there and and the enemy just gonna take that and say, oh, you did exactly what I wanted you to do. Come on now.
Where I think Ice Cube messed up is that historically artists will typically align with a civil rights movement person or somebody in politics, and they come together and they speak about what's happening, right? You get that throughout the 60s with basically every Black artist there was. You come together and you talk about what we are going to talk about. I've never heard of an artist just saying out of the blue, hell, I'm about to just hit up the presidential elects. And
he was about himself.
Trying to make a deal with him. No one asked you to do this. You didn't have to talk about this amongst the entire Black community. So what gives you the right to think that you can speak on behalf of everybody else without necessarily doing anything? And yes, I will say, okay, he took initiative, but initiative at what cost? You essentially just not ruined your own career, but you have us looking at you in a very wild way. What you should have done, you should have checked in and talked to people about what other people want since you're being a representative of a group. I've never heard of somebody who just gonna go and do something and not talk about anything with their constituents. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
My sister, he reached out to both parties. Trump's the only one that got back with him.
Right, but see, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm not talking about reaching out to parties. I'm talking about why did you reach out? It's the intent behind it.
Yeah.
He didn't ask you.
Who told you?
Correct.
Who asked you?
But you have the power to do that.
They both responded. Correction.
That's a hell of a position to be in right now. I wouldn't want to be there.
No,
I would have done it because anybody that does it was going to get backlash.
No.
I think what the point that we need you to hear is that Ice Cube did not slow down enough and collaborate when he took upon himself to be a representative of all Black Americans. He said out of his mouth, I'm not talking to people about diversity. I'm not talking to people about minorities. I'm talking about Black Americans who are the descendants of slaves. And so if you are going to take that position, why wouldn't you collaborate with other people? Why wouldn't you?
Well, Lori, I think that Ice Cube's intentions were great towards Black people. But what he did, he didn't think it out properly, because when you attacking those two parties, or when you are making them accountable for it, you know, people, once they see that you're talking to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has really put a bad feeling in a lot of people's heart, Black people. And when Ice Cube was speaking to him to see the end of the Democratic Party, to see them, to see what we're going to get out of it. But he was representing, he was trying to do an admirable thing, a good thing. But what he didn't realize, that these people are vicious. They're going to take advantage of you.
Right,
and
he knew that.
That's what happened. And now, and we also don't know if the bottom line was he trying to do it for himself as well, because he's in there. Right.
For himself.
You know?
But I don't think what does he gain? Ice Cube is already known. I think he legitimately was trying to say, because me personally, I am, okay, yeah, we've marched, but we need to change laws. The reason why Megan's law is in place is because Caucasians went out and changed laws. They made, you know, votes that counted to ensure that if kids were victims of child abuse and rape and things like that, that this platform would show who was living near you. I think Cube tried to say, you know what, I want to make some laws that are going to protect Black people. But what he didn't take into consideration is, here's a man who uses sound bites for a living. I mean, he won 2016 with sound bites. Right. And so Cube did not understand the algorithm that's behind him sending out this piece of information to both parties. And one party is going to say, I could get a rise out of people once I say, hey, Cube contacted me and we talked to him back. And they may never have talked since the time it leaked, but now there's a buzz. And now because there's a buzz, sometimes young voters will say, oh, Cube's rolling. He's rolling with Trump. Let me go ahead on.
Which is why Trump did.
We ain't got time for that.
That's what he
did. We don't have time for that.
That part right there.
That's
right.
Yeah. Okay,
well, guys,
I see that.
Mr. Fuck the Police himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's
exactly.
what happens when you don't collaborate.
And the president too. Don't forget he rapped about the president too.
Can I, you know, they can change.
Can we talk about affirmative action?
The Constitution is under.
We're gonna get there. Okay, guys. So I think we're hot topics. All right, so we are Ice Cubed out. I think we're gonna come to an agreement.
Well, I always share with my brother, y'all. I love y'all, and I think it's a beautiful show. I love my brother. I'm gonna rock with her.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling, Robin. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon. Night night.
All right, guys. Woo, that was a good one. That took us 30 minutes. Look at us. Okay. So there's just one more comment that we want to. You have. I'm sorry. We have another caller.
No. Do you want to actually hear what exactly he said out of his own mouth? About the backlash.
To wrap it up, Laura.
I want to hear that.
What do you think? You guys want to hear it? Okay.
Yeah, let me hear that.
Shelly want to hear it.
Shelly
Look
wants
at
to hear it.
Virginia.
There you go.
Yes. Inquiring minds want to know. I do too. All right. So we're going to try to play the Ice Cube clip from CNN. Oh my God.
Our next guest is Ice Cube. If you know anything about him, and you probably do, you know he started his career rapping in defiance about police presence and the realities of inner city life. And he got political with his songs as well recently during the Trump administration, most recently in 2018. Here's a taste.
Arrest the president. You got the evidence. That is Russian intelligence.
Now we see a shift. Now he wants to work with President Trump. Here's what the president had to say most recently about Black Lives Matter.
The first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, I said, that's such a terrible term because it's such a racist term. It's a term that sows division between blacks and whites and everybody else. And it's a very bad term for blacks. But they were very angry. It's a Marxist organization.
With all that going on and how the president continues to speak about there being no systemic inequality, it's no shock that Ice Cube got some heat for deciding to work with the Trump administration. He wants to deal with it. I want to understand it. So should you. So here is Ice Cube on Prime Time. Thank you for taking the opportunity, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Chris, your lead-ins are a little misleading.
How so?
Well, the Platinum Plan is not my plan. I came up with the contract with Black America, and I didn't run to go work with any campaign. Both campaigns contacted me. Both campaigns wanted to talk to me about the contract with Black America. One campaign said, we love what you have, but let's really dig into it after the election. And one campaign said, we love what you have. Do you mind talking to us about it? And that's what I did. So I didn't run to nobody. And so that was real misleading to me.
Well, I didn't say you ran to anybody. I said that you had taken a pivot.
Well, you said I ran over to the Trump team instead of the Biden team. That's just not true.
Well, but you are working with the Trump team instead of the Biden team, and people are giving you heat for it. What do you say to them?
Well, I'm willing to work with both teams, but I'm just working with whoever is willing to work with me. So the Trump campaign came to me and asked me to explain to them some of the contract with Black America. That's what I did. I'm not playing no more of these games, these political games. We're not part of a team. We have very broad problems, especially the wealth gap in this country when it comes to Black Americans. So I'm going to whoever's in power and I'm gonna speak to them about our problems specifically. I'm not going there talking about minorities. I'm not going there talking about people of color or diversity or none of that stuff. I'm going there for Black Americans, the ones who are the descendants of slaves. And that's what I'm going to talk to anybody who's in power with that. So if anybody got a problem with that, it seems like a personal problem.
Well, here's the problem, and it is very personal, as you know, for a lot of people of color, because they'll say, well, why would you pick Trump when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I'm not picking nobody. He's the president.
But why do you think he'd want to do something for the community when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I don't know what he want to do. I just know what the man said. I know what he said to the country. I've never met Donald Trump. So I don't know what he's going to do. I just know what he said he was going to do. So both of them have a plan. Both of them say they're going to do something. And who knows what's really going to happen after November 3rd. Nobody knows from each side. We're all hoping that candidates keep their campaign promises. So that's just it.
So let's look at it this way. I think that you're right to be skeptical. Let's start with the Democrats, because even though there is a traditional connection between Black voters and the Democrats, you could also say you've been let down or forgotten by Democrats in a lot of situations that would have mattered. then you say, all right, so then what makes one side better than the other? That's where you get in trouble, which is, do you really think that Donald Trump can be trusted as much as you could trust Joe Biden?
I don't think I'm not trusting any of them. I'm just going by action. That's all I'm going by. I'm not going by words. I'm not going by rhetoric, not going by media spin, not going by none of that. You know, I'm not on nobody's team. I'm not on team blue, not on team red.
So then I have that wrong.
I'm an independent person, and I believe that's what Black people need to do, is become independent, and we need to get something for our vote. You know, that may not happen, but it's gonna happen.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Look, if I had brought you here to fight with you, you would have known it. What I'm saying is, I think I did get it wrong, and I want to make sure I get it right. So saying you're working with the Trump team is wrong. What you did was, when they asked to talk to you about it, you said yes. If Biden had asked to talk to you about it now, you would have gone to them the same way. It's not about you choosing anything. It's you working with everybody who's got a chance of doing anything.
I'm working with whoever's in power. Yeah, I'll work with both. Whoever's in power, I'm going to work with. So whoever wins, they'll hear from me.
Okay, so I'm glad you came to clear it up. So Ice Cube is not with the Trump campaign. He's just given his ideas, and anybody who wants to do something with them, fine. Do you believe they are doing anything with your ideas?
I believe, they looked at the contract with Black America and they updated their plan, but it's their plan. Now, I have my plan. My plan is broad. It goes beyond the public sector. It goes into the private sector, banks, even the movie industry. So we got to deal with a lot of different, companies, corporations, and even government when it comes to solving this problem. I believe it's a bipartisan problem. I believe it's a bipartisan problem when it comes to the issues, when it comes to Blacks in America and what's going on. It's not a Democrat problem. It's not for them to solve. It's not for the Republicans to solve. It's for both of them to solve. They do it when it comes to debt ceiling. They do it when it comes to getting us in wars. They seem to come together when it's something that really affects America. And I don't think nothing affects America more than the situation that Black Americans find ourselves in. This country is coming apart at the seams, and it's not going to come together after January 3rd, no matter who's the president, unless we deal with this wealth gap.
You have the economics. All of it extends from poverty, which is an extension of opportunity, which is an extension of a system that doesn't give equal opportunity, and you see it everywhere. Hiring, education, finance, all of it. So acutely, we've been looking at what happens when policing goes wrong in communities. It doesn't give you concern that the president has handled police.
Whoa, that was an earful, and we could have gone on and on to the break of dawn with that one, ladies and gentlemen. But that's the one-on-one with Ice Cube and CNN. Any changes before we move the train on down? Are we still feeling about the same way, Miss Lori Rucker? How are you feeling?
Shake my head. I mean, who was he married to? Because he should have talked to his wife before he went on and put this on.
Exactly. Where's the wisdom in his household? Because he sure didn't have Nan. And he just, oh my God.
Yeah, what he is saying is absolutely right? That's why there's part of it I agree with him, and the fact that we got to get it in ink, right? We can no longer say I want my reparations. No, we need to get stuff in ink. But now was not the time. He could have did this 7 months ago when we were talking a stimulus package, and he could have threw that in and said, you know what, I'll rock with you, whoever we going, because we had candidates then. I'll rock with whoever looks at this and puts it in the stimulus package too, because that would have been the time. We front loaded banks, we front loaded small businesses. This would have been the time for us to try and address the wealth gap.
What Black leaders did he talk to that he can be able to do that? He stated that he talked to for the Black people. Who did he talk to? Because I ain't never heard nobody brought up nothing that he's trying to do. I don't even know what was in his package or what was he trying to.
I have a question.
Yeah, where is the document?
I have a question. I'm gonna leave it at that. My question is, he says he wants to speak to whomever is in power. Now, is it fair to say, because the Democratic Party is not in power right now, because Kamala and Biden are not in power, is it fair to say that maybe that is the right answer? We'll talk to you after the campaign, because right now, only the people with power can do anything with that contract. So is it fair to say that maybe that's why the Democratic Party said, I will talk to you after the campaign? They're not in power.
Right.
Well, yeah, because they play
Absolutely, Shelley
nice, but
C.
that's what I'm saying. So somebody didn't advise him correctly, because Democrats, we play nice, right? Homeboy gets COVID, we say, oh, we're gonna stop our ads while he's in the hospital. No, we should have put our foot on the gas and kept pushing. And just like he
full
would have.
throttle, full
But we
throttle.
played nice. We played nice and said, oh, we'll take a timeout. No. That's when you put your foot on his throat and keep going. And point at the fact that this fool didn't listen, and that's why he's in the hospital right now. You know, so
he probably was faking at that.
Right?
Nah, he's out the hospital.
First of all,
he's
Yeah,
on
he went to the
oxygen.
hospital. He
Nah,
probably was
right.
faking about COVID. He might not even had it. That was probably all his show.
They had the fake COVID.
the Democrats.
So
The
whomever
Democrats are always trying to do things the proper way. They try. The Republican Party don't even try. The Democrats were selling Ice Cube. They don't want to make this a political thing, so we're going to do it after the election. That's the right move to do. You know what I mean?
and the Republicans used it to their advantage to say, hey, we'll look at it. The only reason they looked at it is to make that statement to say, hey, Ice Cube contacted us. This is what we did. Vote for us. That's the only reason they listened to Cube. Only reason, because they want that black vote.
Reason. So I think this is a great segue, guys.
I think so too.
Proposition 16, right?
16.
Proposition 16 allows diversity as a factor in employment, education, and contracting. So it's kind of like a repeal of Prop 209. A yes vote would mean state and local agencies can consider race, ethnicity, gender, national origin in education, employment, and contracting. A no vote maintains the status quo. Business, education, and contracting would not be mandated to consider diversity or account for privilege in awarding access.
Which prop is this, Lori? I'm sorry.
This is Proposition 16.
Okay.
What do you guys think about that? Yes, no? Have you made up your minds about it? Questions about it?
I'm saying yes on this. And the reason I say this is because historically, the reason why affirmative action was set into place was to try to right the wrongs of America's original sin, which is slavery, and all of the, like, I guess, discriminatory factors that white people do to keep us out of certain systems. I think putting this into place would be helpful because at least with like leaving the university setting, I believe that there needs to be a lot more diversity. As I step into different professional fields, I do feel like there needs to be more diversity in all different fields when it comes to contracting, when it comes to the university system, any other workspace. I feel that that is like one of the only ways that we can try to make the wealth gap a little bit more equal, and try to sustain some sort of sense of equity.
My question is, what's going to be the what's put in place to enforce it? How are we going to audit the contracts and the files and the things to know that there's parity? Because with all systems, it's got to be audited. When I look through and think about all the stuff that's going on, we have a lot of stuff, but nobody's checking the checker. How are we going to?
From a labor standpoint, the federal government is. From a labor standpoint, I don't know about
right, but how are we checking them? So, you know, we need an audit process in everything to see what's really going on.
Right.
Search that I did not, I couldn't find out a particular audit process. So I would imagine that maybe each system is supposed to audit itself, maybe.
Or if there's a lawsuit that comes into effect, that's the only way that it'll come to light.
Come to light, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In looking at stuff, I think it might be fun just to play devil's advocate, to look at the other side, which is the no, and we can talk about rebuttals to that. That if this passes, the no vote says this plays favoritism and it gives an undue advantage to a particular group, which within itself is discriminatory. Do you agree with that?
Well, it wouldn't be white America if they want to go with that. They'll do anything to keep any other person outside of power.
Well, white America has been practicing affirmative action from day one for white people.
Right.
They have been practicing affirmative action, but it's always has been pro-white. That's been the affirmative white. It was white men, and then they add.
Let's say pro-white and men, because let's not forget ladies as well. Because
yes, absolutely. That's that. I was going to add that, Shelley. Absolutely, because it's them all. What they have, they've diluted our affirmative action by declaring their women as a minority.
Right.
So she goes up in the head count. So boom, there it is. So it's been, diluted down anyway by the strategy of that move, and that was the strategy. Well, let's just call the women a minority, and then we can throw our women in there. So when you start looking, oh well, we got women, but what women? You know? So yeah,
black women,
yes.
The other rebuttal is that the state should treat all Californians the same. There shouldn't be an advantage given to one over the other.
I don't believe in equality. I believe in equity.
Right.
Equality is the basis that everybody gets the same thing.
And that doesn't happen.
Right. And that never will happen. Equity means, let's say I make $20 and the next person makes 40. We all want to get to 100. You can't just give us both the same amount of money. I'm going to need more because I'm disadvantaged. So I don't believe in anything that says equality. If it doesn't say equitable, I'm probably not going to be down for it, because that means it's not recognizing where people are versus where other people are and trying to create something that everyone literally will be on an equal playing field. So it needs to be equitable to get towards equality.
My girl.
And because we want to take that a little bit further, we can always talk about inclusion, but that's a whole different topic, right? And so I don't even know if we'll ever get to the point of inclusion. So I do agree with you that we need to talk about equity.
Equitable.
All right. So where do you feel? Do you feel you've made your mind up about Proposition 16? Anybody unsure about where they're living?
Proposition 16 is not a hit with us right now, Lori G. Nobody cares about Proposition
I didn't even understand Proposition 16. I had all my stuff on this table. I was reading through the books and I was like, what?
Well, do you understand it now?
So when you said this was happening, I was like, good.
Well, what it says here,
I understand it now. From what I understand, what California, it's setting the goal, right? So we know that in certain fields, the equality isn't there, right? So this prop is saying that we are now going to set goals to address women, people of color. Some of the cons or pros of it is that it's gonna be statistically followed, where it's not now in some cases, right? We're lucky to have that information in colleges or UCs or Cal States. We're lucky to have it maybe in small businesses or sectors, right? Because we know that most CEOs are males, but we don't have it. We don't have it where it really counts, in these small businesses where white men have been repeatedly given finances and things like that to continue the cycle of their own affirmative action. So I think that, I think yes might be one of the ways to go, just to at least start having the conversation to talk about it, because we're losing in college, we're losing as women in businesses. Right. I mean, we're losing all over the place. And if you take the stimulus that was the paycheck protective, right? We missed out on so much of it because we didn't have access to financial advisors, people who were writing the bill while it was being signed in the White, these are things that, we got to start somewhere. We might have to just revert back.
I think I would vote yes on 16 because it addresses the opportunity, like you were saying, Lori, to have someone hold you accountable for inclusion, going back to what you said, Tanya, where we are now, I know from the university standpoint, my university has decided to make sure that we look at diversity and try to create equity and partner with programs so that we have a very diverse student body. But by law, institutions don't have to do that. So they leave it up to individuals to make that determination. If this Proposition 16 is in effect, there will be an accounting mechanism established to ensure that a particular percentage of something has to be diversified. And we have to keep in mind that everyone doesn't start at the same point, right? That some people are born or they stumble upon or they get advantages that don't necessarily exist for other people. And who gets hurt in that are typically people of color. So
and women too. So I think it levels the playing field for women and communities of color, people of color. I would say Black people. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think it shows the power in if we vote. I mean, because it could change things. I remember watching when the NBA players walked out. I thought to myself, man, if they just demand that they hire the people behind the camera look like them, that would have been a big step for us, because yeah, they're playing on the court, but there's no representation in ownership. There's no representation in camera crew. There's no representation in the athletic training department. I mean, if you really look at what's surrounding them, it does not reflect what's on the court. And affirmative action will help pave the way to that.
Yeah, but
well, people hold them accountable.
The thing that I've always been, concerned about affirmative action, I think that it's working. I think that you get to a certain point, and then just say when you go through employees, so you say, okay, we need to make this more with equity. We need a Black female. Well, you can interview that person, but that doesn't mean you have to hire them. So there's still some right at the end of the company. It's just a stepping stone to get you more closer to the door, but that doesn't mean that you will enter the door. And that's what I'm hoping this vote will do, is help us keep account of that and why we're not transitioning through the threshold. And so, because I've never really seen that it be effective as effective as I think it should be in the status quo.
Yeah, because all you have to do is show that you pretty much gave advantage or tried to give advantage to women of color, women or communities of color. All you have to do is show that. So basically, I think there's ways around it, of course, but I still would vote yes on 16 to just level the playing field at least.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the POJ show, at least, is saying yes to 16 to promote.
Okay. Meg says she doesn't know much about that one. That's a California only.
Yeah, that's
Meg.
a California.
Hello, Megalicious.
Hi, Megalicious. Hey, Meg. How are you? All right, guys. So that's a pretty good one there. I would like to bring up, I know these aren't going in order, but I think they're going by level of popularity. And we invite you who are listening to us on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram to give us a call, share your thoughts at 310-910-9676 extension 1, 310-910-9676 extension 1. So the next proposition that I'd like to put out there is Proposition 23. And that establishes state requirements for kidney dialysis clinics that requires on-site medical professional initiative statutes and prohibits clinics to deny service due to patient payment sources. A yes vote would mean the clinics would have to have a doctor on site at all times during patient treatment hours. And a no vote would mean maintain the status quo.
Can you go a little bit deeper on that, Lori? So, give me a day in the life. How does that apply to me?
Right. So how that applies to you is if you were a dialysis patient, right, your clinic that you're going to for your treatment would have to reach a different standard of care, right? And I guess, accountability in the sense that they'd be checking for better hygiene, infection reporting. There must be a doctor on site, and that they don't deny you because you don't have the insurance to be able to pay. Now,
Okay.
the one side of that is that people are saying this is very good. This is very good because it's going to increase standards, da 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 da. But the counter argument of that is no, we shouldn't do that because it's going to force some clinics to shut down. Smaller clinics that tend to be in minority areas that service people of color will not be able to keep up with the cost of the standards that they're putting on these clinics. I think I got that right. Tanya, you want to weigh in as a healthcare professional?
Yeah, so I think the concern with the dialysis clinics is right now, there's acute and chronic dialysis. So when you're in the hospital, it's more acute. We have physicians there. It's a very serious treatment. Your blood pressure can drop. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on during dialysis. In the outpatient setting, it's a more a chronic type. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and it's more stabilized. So they've not required physicians in the hospital. The concern is when they're not requiring physicians in the hospital, the data that we can collect is different. So there's not data that you can collect to see if this is a safer place. It's not parallel to the hospital. The infections rate, they think that are higher in the dialysis clinics, and that's not being reported. And so they're thinking if they're putting a physician, they can have more governance over there because the physicians being their partner with they partner with governing agencies and medical insurances and stuff, because now they have a scorecard, right? And without physicians there's no scorecard, right? There's no scorecard on care and delivery. The problem is that, yes, a lot of the clinics are in the inner city. If you go, you see DaVita almost on every 3 to 4 blocks, right? Because the inner city is the number one client for dialysis, for kidney failure. So it will put strains on that. So now it's going to force them outside the community. There's going to be a transportation issue. There's going to be a reliability issue. There's going to be a lack of partnership. So it's a coin toss, right? I'm personally voting yes on it because I do think you need governance, and there just may need to be some adjustment made with nurse staffing and other things within the clinic, because it's a lot of money there. I don't think they're going to let it go down initially, but I do think that it needs more governance for the patients.
This one kind of hit home for me because my father was a patient of dialysis, and one of the companies that is saying no about this was one of the places he went to. So I didn't realize before my father took dialysis that there is a dialysis center every 7 to 10 mile radius in every city. So even if you live in Beverly Hills, at that time we lived in Rancho Cucamonga, it was exactly 6.4 miles to get to the dialysis center. There is a RN on staff, but one of the key things is that if anything, like he had a bleed out one time and they couldn't stop the bleeding, they do call 911. And so I'm kind of like, well, they don't necessarily need a physician because they know the protocol. There is an RN there. But then when Tanya's talking about the governance part, having a physician on record, we did our due diligence of making sure we went to the dialysis center often to make sure that it was clean, make things that were running well. But if it's one of the things I'm worried about, if we say yes on this, then it's gonna take away from the inner city and people are gonna move out because it does cost a lot. I work on another side of financial. My mom does finances and so forth, and she has many employee or clients that are RNs for dialysis centers, and they make upwards of the $150,000, $170,000 to be in a facility just monitoring the systems, because it's not actually them who's doing the actual sticking of the needle. So I don't want to take away from people who maybe can't afford to have choices,
Yeah, I think the RNs will always be there, but I think the problem is when a dialysis patient goes bad, they go bad. and it's quick. And you may need a different level of intervention. Even in the hospital, we have dialysis patients. I can tell you some stories that they really turn quickly, right? So I don't think it will ever take away the role of the RN. The RN's role may expand more to be the one providing the dialysis instead of overseeing it, because you have techs. But I do think that there may be a situation where, you know, even if they're there 4 or 5 hours a day, looking at the patients, looking at the charts, it's always better in person than on phone, right? Because that's why, even though the RNs, we run the hospital, but we have to know when to call the physician. And then there's sometimes the physician sees stuff because they're training that some RNs don't see. So the assumption is every RN is competent like the other RN, and that is completely inaccurate, right? Just because I'm a nurse don't mean I'm a smart nurse. Just because I have a degree don't mean I act like my degree shows that I'm educated, right? And just because I'm a doctor don't mean I'm the doctor that you want to treat you, right? And so we make an assumption by titles that has nothing to do with competence sometimes.
But I like how you explain how the oversight, so that changes my mind to like delve into it a little more to read, because I like oversight. I'd like to know what is going on, you know, from the beginning to the end. I want to know if you've done it well, and if you haven't done it well, what are you changing? So I thank you for giving that information.
Wow, Proposition 23, dialysis in the inner city, where they know we're going to get it because they're going to give it to us, so they know we're going to need it. Is that the motif here? Right?
Well, that's
the wealth gap, right?
Ma'am, Ms. Lori Rucker.
You know, that's a whole different thing. I tell you, I worked at St. Francis Medical Center. We were the highest organ donation hospital, and they never went back to the inner city. Don't get me started, okay? So they never went back. The organs, the liver and the kidneys are the number ones, and they never went back in the inner city, even though they came from the inner city. So I'm passionate about that.
Yeah.
So don't even get me started on that. But the problem is
proposition about that, Lori? No, we ain't got a proposition on that one. Yeah. We can start.
Because of COVID and because a lot of things, the healthcare system is at risk anyway. There's going to be closures anyway. And even if they close, they're going to try to link it to propositions that worked and did not work anyway. But the financial state of healthcare is not the way, it's in trouble. And so there may be some clinics that's going to close anyway, right?
Okay, so what we voting, Tanya?
Yes.
Yes on 23. Yes.
I don't know. 23 seems to be a little controversial.
I want to know what Tanya thinks. 23, what you think, Tanya?
Yeah, I'm voting yes, because there's things that the public just don't know.
That's what I put.
Well, yeah, and that I would agree, because there was a time when my father's shunt was clogged or some and they called my mother first. And my mom was like, no, you call 911. If there's nobody on there who could take this situation, you call 911. You're like, why are you calling me, who's not, you know, life is his blood pressure is dropping. And it was amazing to know at that point, like, oh, okay, that's when we did the research even more. It was like, oh, RNs are on full-time staff, but there is no physician. And so is that public record? No, it's not. It was just, you know, you talk to other people who are on there on your same Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you realize, oh, something happened to Susan too last week. And then you say, oh, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah, the requirement is to have them on call, but with on call, there still is a call in time. You're on call, you got to call in within 15 to 30 minutes. There's no on call stat, right? So that becomes a concern. And in the middle of that, a patient can be compromised.
This is daunting.
This is. So I think 23 is a yes for me. I think I'm going to have to vote yes.
You flipped my vote. You flipped it. I'm going yes.
You're going yes.
As both Lori Ray and Lori Rucker, what about the voting parties? Is it too late for us to put together voting parties? What do you all think about that as a panel? What do you think?
I don't think I'd support a voting party in light of COVID.
Oh. In virtual Zoom.
Oh,
could be virtual.
It could be.
Stop. And we are. Look at us.
You know, or not even a voting party, but a watch party for November 3rd or the 4th, you know. So then
Yeah.
if we all need to come together and pray virtually over a situation that, so happens to
Yeah.
talk me off the ledge, Canada doesn't want us. So that's my option is out. So maybe
That's an option. Definitely.
Go ahead, Miss Lori
Scary.
G.
A scary thought on November 3rd. We could all get together and hold a visual. So let's move on to Proposition 22. This one has been a pretty hot one in the news, and this was the app-based transportation and delivery companies being classified as independent contractors opposed to being employees. And a yes vote means rideshare and delivery companies can employ individuals as independent contractors and not provide any benefits. A no vote would stop huge companies from avoiding California law exemptions and for not paying for health care, sick leave, and unemployment. What do you guys think about Prop 22?
I'm on the fence because there's a lot of people who depend on that, especially now with the pandemic, as being their sole provider of money. So for those people, I kind of feel sorry because they're being worked, but they're not giving the benefits of an employee versus those who really just use it as a side job or a sidekick where they don't have to pay, they don't have to pay the taxes. They just kind of make the money. So that one, I don't know about you guys, but I'm on the fence for that one because some people use it as a sole, source of income. And if they do use it as a sole source of income, then they should get the benefits. But on the other side, if you are an independent contractor, you can kind of pick your hours and work whenever you want to work. So there's like benefits to both sides. So I'm not really sure, but I don't know. There's some people, like for example, there's people who work in the entertainment industry that use that more so as a side gig so that they can do whatever they want. They can make their own hours. They can work whenever they want to. They can choose that time. But if you make it, as them as an employee, then you can kind of control their schedule, when they work and all of that and their hours, and then they would have to get benefits. So I'm not really sure. I heard something on TV that that Lyft and Uber are willing to pull out of California if it is passed. So I'm kind of
That's what Meg was asking too. I'm sorry, Meg was asking that too. But go ahead, please.
But Shelley, from an HR perspective, I think I'm voting no on this because from an HR perspective, if I work full-time equivalents, then I should get benefits, right? And then if you're going to hire me as an independent contractor, then I'm per diem, I get no benefits because it's not a full-time job. So in the hospital, we have nurses, you're full-time, if you work 36 hours or more, you get all the benefits. But if you per diem and you want to pick and choose when you're going to work, pick and choose when you're going to come to work, pick and choose the number of hours you're going to work, then you can be an independent contractor. I don't think that everybody should fit in that category. And I also think that independent contractors should have a certain salary. That means that they're independent, but they can still afford certain things on their own on the side.
That's not how the law is as far as employment law. Basically, with being an independent contractor, you can choose your hours however you want to.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but an independent contractor also by a tax code is not using the company or any of the entities machinery and so when Lyft is sending you the information to go pick up somebody, you are not an independent contractor. You are in fact an employee. And so because I'm sending you the information, it's not, you're not an independent contractor because you have to think of it this way. Like even if I had a maid, even if I had a company like a maid service, right? And I hire the same maid every single time to do the job, but she's using my material. So she's using my mop, she's using my cleaners. She is not an independent contractor by tax code. She's an employee. So Lyft is the same way. Uber is the same way. I'm using their data system in order to get access to clients that to pick them up.
But I'm using my car.
It doesn't matter because if I take away this that sends you the information, what do you do with your car?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's on the fence. It's either or. With the law, it's either or. You can't say, oh, well, part of this you can use my equipment and part of this you can't. If I'm using my car and my gas and scheduling my own schedule, I'm an independent contractor. If I am going by your schedule, using your app, using your car, using your gas, therefore I am not an independent contractor. I'm an employee, so I deserve benefits.
No, they could get away with that because all they have to do is give you mileage. So they could give you the standard deduction, especially give you the 44 cents on the mileage.
No, especially as of January 1, you cannot do that. You cannot straddle the fence. It's either or.
That's why I say they're not independent contractors, because they wouldn't have access to the clients if not for the data system
they're using is the app. The app does not belong to Lyft and Uber. They're using an app. An app is independent. They're not using anything that belongs to Lyft or.
But who owns
the app?
Who owns? Yeah.
Just like you use an app, there's somebody else. There's somebody independent of that owns the app.
No, but it's hard to say Lyft and Uber.
Okay, then that means Lyft and Uber would have. That's why Lyft and Uber want to leave California, because then that means if Lyft and Uber would have to supply you with the car, the gas, and all of that. Oh, I can't hear you, Lori.
No, they wouldn't have to supply you. The proposition states that they would be considered employees. So then, if they worked over the 40 hours,
applies to the law now. As it applies to the law now, if you are my employee, I have to supply you with everything: the car, the gas, everything. Yes.
No, that's not true, because you got to think of a traveling nurse.
Exactly. That's absolutely incorrect.
Okay, you tell me what's correct.
No, because if I'm, like Lori said, if I'm a traveling nurse, I have my own car, I have my own stuff, but I'm working for you. So
get that stuff from Tanya. Aren't you reporting your mileage? And your employer's paying your mileage, and the supplies and all of those things that you need to do your work as a nurse is being supplied by your company. It's kind of like when I was a recruiter, right? I was recruiting on behalf of the university, right? I traveled, they covered that, the materials and all the supplies that I used, they covered, right? So I was a recruiter that was for USC, but there are independent recruiters that recruit the same students. They're at the same events that I went to, but they're independent contractors. They're not, those things aren't being supplied by a bigger corporation.
Correct.
Yeah, but they're not doing it day in and day out. That person is hired in seasons, right? So this person.
Year round. Recruiting is an all year round gig, because once you just have elements you focus on.
I think what Lori and I are saying is you can't make a blanket statement all across the employment land. When you're talking about, and Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're talking, so let's go back to the Uber and Lyft. If I work 40 hours for you, to me, I should be considered an employee.
No, it doesn't depend on hours. It depends on
right now. So hold on, Shelly. I know you're HR, but right now, there's, at least where I work and where I work, there's a benefit tag associated with hours. There's a benefit tag associated with hours, whether it's more than 20, more than 25. So I'm saying that benefit tag that's associated with hours should apply to Lyft. If I don't work that many hours and if I'm independent doing whatever I want to do, because when you're independent, you have no obligations to perform unless you want to perform. You could do whatever you want to do whenever you want to.
Yeah, that's Lyft. I have no obligation to take on a client. I have no obligation to sign into the app, right? I have no obligation to work 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. I can decide, this week I'm going to work 5 hours. Next week, I'm not going to work at all. I don't have to ask anybody for permission of that or anything like that, right?
Cumulatively, if you're a full-time employee, right? Because California law, I think Tanya and I are on the same page where you have 40 hours is considered, a 40-hour work week is considered full-time, right? And so it cumulatively in a month, if I have 40-hour average, I'm considered a full-time employee. Anything less, I'm considered a part-time employee.
No, that is a company. policy. That is not law. That is not labor law or state law or federal law. That's a company policy.
So the labor law says if I work 4 hours, I'm full-time?
No, the labor law says you can set your hours however you want to as an employer. It doesn't matter that whatever hours you set, if I say, okay, all my part-time employees have to work 30 hours or more, that's because I said it as an employer. The law doesn't say how many hours you have to work to be an employee.
To be a full-time, to be considered full-time?
That's set by the company. That's set by the employer, not by.
Yeah, because like with my brother-in-law, who when he started out was a welder, but he moved from being with a company to as an independent contractor, and sometimes he would weld almost 20 hours in one day, you know. And then it may go when the rainy season came and he didn't work as much because of that rain, but he was an independent contractor. Nobody came and said, okay, you have to stop working because you've reached 8 hours today.
Exactly.
I think we're saying the same thing. An independent contractor can work as many as they want, more or less, 2 to 200. But when you're an employer, and you're just say somebody is doing something every single day, whether it's for their benefit or not, the company is still benefiting. In my opinion, I feel if you're working a certain amount of hours consistently for the company, that you should get benefits.
That's your opinion. That's not the contract. Whatever contract the company.
This whole session is about our opinions. So I'm saying, in my opinion, going back to the proposition, if they're working consistently, all that they should get benefits.
Right, but is there a contract with these independent workers, like through Lyft and Uber? Is there an independent contract?
That's what they're trying to get.
Yeah.
They're trying to say either there's a contract or there's not.
Right.
But that's basically why those two companies want to pull out of California, because now you're telling me I have to employ those people. I don't have to if I don't want to. There's no.
I think it boils down.
Well, and
the
I
bigger
think they
elephant.
don't want to be part of the liability too, because
Right.
they've had several lawsuits because they weren't monitoring drivers, and so you had sex offenders and things like that, and you've had a couple of homicides that have happened, and so now if I make it an employee, I'm now responsible. So I think it's a bigger picture. And so I want you to make them employees. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Because I need you to monitor.
That's why they want them to be independent. So
they don't have to assume the liability. And that's I think that's very wrong and crooked of a company.
It is, but I'm just telling you what
ratchet.
It is what it is.
And the reason why, I bet you the reason why this is coming up is because they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot
of part of the research. They're making a lot of money.
And the people that's doing all the work is not getting any benefit from it.
Well, the company is benefiting because I guess there's certain like things you have to pay if you're an employer, certain state things for
you have to pay workers' compensation insurance, unemployment insurance. You got to contribute to all those funds. Yeah.
Right. And Uber and Lyft are not contributing right now.
Right.
Yeah, it's more expensive for me to have you as an employee versus if you were on independent.
Yeah, because I have to have liability insurance. And now
what about JoJo mom who, drives Lyft in between her kids being at school, and that little money feeds their family?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the problem with the proposition, right?
Well, yeah, that's on the table. I think we kind of really hammered through why we think Lyft and Uber should make them employees.
Right. But to Shelley's point, But to Shelley's point, even if they do flip and they become employees, the employer can say where they draw the line that you are benefit eligible or not benefit eligible.
Exactly.
That's what she's saying. Even if I do say, okay, you're an employee, but I say if you work under 20 hours a week, I'm not going to pay benefits to you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Virginia, would I still have the ability to say when I want to work and when I don't?
Exactly. Nope. As an independent contractor, yes.
As an independent contractor, yes.
But as
if you're an employee, no. You would have a set schedule. I would give you a schedule.
Yes.
Uber would have to give me a set schedule and say, correct. Lori, you drive from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Exactly.
This is a tough one for me.
But Shelley, isn't there a statute that came out that said if you had a certain amount of employees, you have to offer benefits if they work so many hours?
full-time equivalent.
Yes.
Right.
But
So
it has to be full-time equivalent. If I keep it under that,
but we're talking about Uber as a national company, United States, they will have 50 full-time people who would sign up for that. So I thought there was a requirement, if a minimum amount of employees, that benefits have to be offered.
yes.
Yes. So that would
They
apply
have to
Uber.
offer them, they only have to offer them to people who are at least half-time or more, right?
Well, it depends on what they set. They could give benefits to you if you work 5 hours a week if they wanted to, but it's the employer will set what that benefit eligibility will be.
But if I keep you as an independent contractor, full-time equivalent doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Correct. But this is make the proposition is wanting to make them employees, right?
Yes, and that's the reason why Lyft and Uber said they're going to pull out, because they don't want to make them employees. They want to keep them as independent contractors. It costs the company less. I don't have any control over you. You're using your own equipment. I don't have to get insurance on you. I don't have to get workers' comp insurance. I don't have to do anything. It's cheaper for the company to do it that way. That's the reason why. And these these people, I won't say employees, these people are fighting to be employees because they want all of those benefits. But they're saying you're choosing when you want to work. And just because you choose 40 or more hours doesn't mean I need to make you an employee. You're choosing. That's up to you. Why do I need to pay for you? Basically,
are they even offering them like the opportunity to get, you know, how some companies they have, you know, you can get insurance. You know, some companies when you work part-time or independently or, you know, whatever, they have like companies say, oh, well, we have this insurance. If you want to get it, you be paying out of your own pocket. This is something if you want to get. Do they have that? Anybody know?
Who have that?
Do Uber or Lyft have that?
They don't, because they're treating them as independent contractors. They're not offering them that.
They're not offering anything.
And that's why they want to keep them as independent contractors. And if this law passes, they're going to pull out of California because they don't want that responsibility.
Well, I say give the job back to the taxi man, the yellow cab.
But that's true.
The yellow
back
cab.
to the jitney.
There you go. Okay, well, I don't know, POJ show. I think this is one that's going to have to be decided in the voting ballot booth there, because we're kind of divided on what we think and where we should be.
If you want to keep them in California, basically what they're saying is you keep them as independent contractors. If you vote to make them employees, Uber and Lyft has said they're going to pull it themselves out of it. So what happens? We don't have them anymore.
Well, let's call the bluff and pull out. Let's see if they pull out, because we have a large market. Let's call the bluff.
I ain't been using them anyway with COVID, so.
Exactly, right?
So, Gerald, you've been you're in New York. You don't have these propositions. What do you think about Uber and Lyft, which you guys have a lot of those there? Do you think they have an obligation to bring people on as employees, or do you think independent contractor is the better way to go?
I'm not sure. I don't use Uber or Lyft at all, so I'm not really sure.
So I think it doesn't only affect Uber and Lyft. Like, this is also for DoorDash. This is also for like all the food apps, like everything. So I think it's just a little bit more nuanced. It's a hard thing.
Are all these decisions coming up? Are all these decisions coming up because of the COVID virus? They're happening because business is not good, so they have to change the way they're, changing their operating procedures, their standard operating. What's going on? Are they just changing?
There's pros and cons on both sides, because here's the other thing. If I want to me, Shelly Carter, if I want to use that as a side hustle, I don't want you telling me when I'm going to drive. I don't want you telling me that on Saturday I have to drive from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I want to make the decision as to whether I want to work from maybe 5 to 10 p.m. Maybe I'm a mother and I don't want, maybe it's a side hustle for me. Maybe I'm a mother, or maybe it's not. Maybe I want the decision that I have a husband that works full time during the day, where I stay home during the day, and maybe at night I want to drive from midnight to 5, but I don't want you to make my schedule. I want to choose when I drive. So when I choose when I drive, I'm an independent contractor. But if I become an employee, you can make my schedule however you want to. And it doesn't fit with my lifestyle.
Yeah, I think the concern, Shelley, with the whole Uber Lyft thing is that there are people that are working a lot of hours a day, whether it's to benefit themselves or benefit their employees, and they are not eligible for benefits.
Right.
I don't know the platform. I don't know the platform in which Uber and Lyft do. I don't know if they have a list, and if they don't have enough people on, they start calling. I don't know enough about the background work to make any, to have a conversation about that. But I do think that the problem with the proposition is it should say if somebody works 40 or more, they should be an employee. If someone works less than that, they shouldn't be, or whatever it is. It's not separated. It's one way. But I think that as hard workers as some of these people work, and if they work a lot of hours, they should get benefits.
I agree, Tanya, but what I'm saying is there are two sides. There are some people who don't want that because they want the independence of choosing the time when they drive. So there's two sides. There's people who do drive 40 or more, 35 or more, who want benefits, but there's also people who don't because they want the benefit of choosing when they drive, how they drive, who they drive.
So couldn't they just opt out? Couldn't they just create a clause that you opt out? So you're signing, just like sometimes when you're newly hired, you opt out of benefits, right? Couldn't they opt out at that point and say, no, I prefer to stay as an independent contractor?
As an employee, you have control over when I can opt out of benefits, I can opt out of that, but you still have control over when I work and how I work.
Not if I opt out and say I'm an independent.
You can opt out of benefits, but I can still tell you, Lori, you're working Monday through Friday, 12 to 5. You might say, I don't want to work 12 to 5. That's not the time that coincides with my husband's schedule. Maybe I want to work 6 to 12, but you don't have that option if you're an employee. And so I'm saying there's two sides. There's people who want the
but I'm saying, so couldn't they have
benefits?
Couldn't you say that, okay, the problem passes, right? But then you massage it to where you have employee. So yeah, I'm affording people who want to be employees to be employees, but those who want to still just opt out and remain independent, I now have a subgroup of people underneath my organization that are now independent contractors.
You can't do both. You can't have somebody who's doing, that's why the proposition is up.
Well, USC had it. Lori just said that they're recruiters.
And let me tell you, USC has had some lawsuits behind labor law. So let me tell you, there's two sides.
Bashing us, Shelley Carter.
What you say?
Don't be bashing us, girl. Well, you know what, guys? The clock is ticking, and so we're gonna have to move on. We are gonna leave Proposition 22 behind. It's controversial here. It's controversial here on the POJ show.
Thank you.
But we got to keep this train rolling because I don't think we're gonna get through all of our propositions. So the next one,
I'll tell you this much: people in New York, I can tell you this much: they find it easier to make money from Uber and Lyft by suing them. There's a lot of lawsuits with those guys. I'm telling you, yes, a lot of law.
The way out is not to have them as employees.
We're moving on. We're moving on. We're on to Proposition 21 now, guys. 21, and this came from our Facebook land who wants to talk about Proposition 21. But before we go from our text audience, Stevie Johnson, one of our dedicated listeners, says that he's been in 7 Ubers lately, and every one of those drivers wanted to be an independent contractor. So keep that in your mind as you go to the polls, okay? Moving on to 21, this one talks about local government authorities to enact rent control on residential properties that are 15 years old or older. The rate limits may differ from county to county. A yes vote would be that counties can determine rent control. A no vote would say that the state law would not control rent increases. Where are you living with that? The NAACP says this should be a no vote on Prop 21.
Oh, you said yes. Oh, okay.
Oh.
And
Maybe I'm misinterpreting because I'm thinking yes, there should be rent control. So a yes vote is not yes for rent control.
A yes vote says that the county can determine rent controls. It will, yeah. So that means that they will, if you vote yes on 21, that means that you are voting for rent control, that it'll help with homelessness. It'll keep families in their home. It'll provide renters secure housing, and landlords will not have to compete with large corporate rental establishments or rental companies.
Yeah. So
That's
this
what a
is the
yes
thing.
vote means.
So when you own a unit, you can do 3% every year and then 1% for, so 4% the max in LA County. In Inglewood, there's no rent control. They out of control over here. The rent is crazy. So if I decide I want to raise it 10, 15%, I can. And I don't think that that's fair. So I think I want some rent control.
The statute would allow county to differ. So I guess every county would have to provide a rent control number, but maybe Inglewood is 7%, and well, I guess it would be LA County. So all of LA County would be 7%, but maybe Orange County is only 3%. You can kind of determine your own. What do you think? We're supporting rent control. Oh, you want to hear the other side? The other side, why the NAACP says no. This is what threw me. And Gavin Newsom says vote no on this as well. They say that this will make a housing crisis worse because it will overturn the current laws in California for rent control. And there will be, they predict an influx of landlords hiking up their rent to to get their money before the
21
before it goes into effect, so that the tenants are going to experience lots of rental increases because the landlords will try to do that before the proposition is enacted. And Gavin Newsom says that there are already rent control laws out there that work as well. And we wanted to know what proposition this was. This is Proposition 21. So what do you guys think? Greed? Yeah.
So the question on the table is whether or not rent control should be more enforced, or
The question is, should every county have a rent control policy?
yes.
The NAACP says no.
I think yes, but you know what I hate about all this proposition stuff? It's like, well, what would it be? Would it be a minimum 2, maximum 5? Is everybody to set their own? So then we go back to that whole equity thing, right? Because
Everyone would set their own.
Yeah, and
every county has their own right.
Yeah, and that's what becomes a little unfair.
Fair. Because Orange County, as we know, who all lives in Orange County, can make theirs at 3%. Well, Inglewood and LA is 7%. I think that's unfair.
No. We're in ahead.
Okay,
PLJ.
You guys.
I voted no.
Who said that? Chris?
I voted no. Yeah.
No.
I already voted no on that.
No on that.
Right.
Only because I'm already starting my generational wealth, and I ain't got time to be having no rent control. I mean, we have to go by wisdom when we're doing these certain things. So it's just not something that there are certain places that do already have stuff in. And I've been talking with, flippers and those who already own multiple properties, and they kind of say no because there's already things in place for that, and you're going to have people that own property if they say yes, they're going to hike those rents up, and people who can't afford it now, are barely making it. If they rent go up so much more %, then you're going to create more homelessness.
Or run them out of that community.
Yes.
People are leaving LA and Inglewood already, going to Nevada and Arizona because of that. So I think
we're making an assumption that everybody is going to hike their rent, right?
Yeah, because
and that's not true. No, everybody's not going to hike their rent. I think we're talking about the majority, and there needs to be better control over it.
We hope.
I still voted no.
No, so Chris, you want to be able to have a little flexibility when you get that generational wealth building. You can just Exactly. You know what I mean? Just get the money, right? If that's what it's all about, particularly if you have a piece of property that you just want to use and pimp, if you will.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know
not
what I
gonna,
mean?
and you know, it depends on that individual person because some people are just greedy, you know. So my properties are gonna be Section 8'd or for, you know, not by your income, but I'm planning on Section 8 in all my properties because, you know, I don't want nobody to have to struggle to pay their rent. So, and I know Section 8, I'm gonna get my money.
Section 8 also allows you
That's
to
a whole nother
increase rent
topic.
too. Like Section 8 allows you to increase rent too.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
it absolutely does because the fair market
They
rate. You
do.
see what I'm saying? So people they still
And
gotta
there's
get
a
money.
cap. There's a cap to how much you could increase it.
Yeah, and a true prudent landlord knows that they want to keep their spots occupied.
Right.
And there's only so much that everybody can afford at one time. Unless they want to keep turning over every time, you
Which is
try
a
to
pain
keep
in the
it at a
ass.
reasonable rate, right?
Yeah, it's too much work.
And we say that, you know, it's a blessing to be able to provide places for people. So as long as you can, you know, make the mortgage or whatever, or, you know, fair market value, then it's not our duty to gouge people.
Right.
You're right,
So is
Lori.
that a yes or no vote, Lori?
I'm saying
yes.
I'm saying yes.
So we're kind of a little split. We got some yeses, we've got some nos.
So that's our Proposition 21.
That's Prop 21.
All
All right, guys. We're moving on to Proposition 25. This has been a hot one, which is we will eliminate the right to put up bail for someone that has been arrested based on their ability to pay. It would be based on their assessed risk of flight or the assessment of committing another crime. A yes vote would mean no one would pay full bail to be released from jail before trial. They would be released on prior arrest, flight risk, or the probability of committing another crime. No one would be charged fees as a condition of their release. A no vote means people will continue to post bail for release.
Dang, so they gotta update the game of Monopoly then, because there ain't no get out of jail free card no more,
right? Yikes!
There is no get out of jail free card, Rashid. Well, POJ,
in layman's
you're pretty
term, what is that? Yeah, because I don't even know. There's just so much legal jargon. What does it mean in layman's terms?
Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't realize that you don't get your money back. Bail when you post the 10%, I didn't realize that you didn't get that money back if you were found innocent.
No.
And then I've always asked, where does that money go? So if I post it, like for example, you know, this guy right now, what's his name? One of the rich white guys. He's going in for fraud, tax fraud, and he's posting what was $1 million to you know, to get out or whatever. And I'm like, where's that $1 million go?
Well, was his bail $1 million?
No, his bail, what he had to post was $1 million. His bail was almost
100 something.
Oh, yeah, talking about the ex-cop that kneeled on George Floyd's neck.
Okay, yeah, it was like $100-something million, and he posted.
It was $1 million.
$1 million, yeah, because it's 10% of whatever the thing is, yeah.
So where's that money go?
To the bail bondsman.
The bail bondsman.
Yep.
Yeah, but then when he goes to court and he's found guilty, the bail bondsman just gets to keep the $1 million.
Yes.
Yep, and just turn it over to the government.
Wow. They turn it over to the government?
I believe so.
I have no idea.
See, I thought there was one point when you posted bail and that person ran away or something like that, you lose your money.
Yeah,
so
you lose
there was
your money.
always an option for you to get part of it back, and it's not.
No, you don't get your bail money back.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think what this one here, what Proposition 25 is saying is that we're not going to consider the ability to pay, right? That we're going to use another rubric. And this is what's scary for me as a person of color, that the system, a computerized system, is going to assess whether or not you would be a flight risk, whether or not the probability is high for you to commit another crime, and whether or not you had prior arrest. And so based on that rubric or algorithm, the computer will spit out whether or not you're suitable for bail.
And we already know who
I
the
think we damned if we do and we
damned if you don't. Yep.
You already know. You
Sit
already know
down
what
and wait
this
for
is
the
saying.
Messiah to return, because
You
ain't
know,
nothing
because
positive
you're
and nothing
better
gonna
off.
happen
You're better
tonight,
off if
Chris.
you could post
We
bail.
just need to
You're
go in the
better off
cut,
with the
Off
bail.
drink into
post
the
bail.
Messiah come.
But then you can't afford it. We can't afford to post bail.
You already know who those people gonna be. You already know. It look like all of us on
I
the
just think that
That's my
computer
platinum plan.
is gonna spit out black and brown people.
Right, exactly.
If the healthcare
Exactly.
Gonna
Yeah,
be a higher flight risk.
And you know what it's
if the
gonna say? It's gonna
healthcare's
say
computer
it's gonna,
algorithm messes us up as minorities, you know that one's gonna mess us up.
exactly.
and it's gonna say, oh, you this color, oh, you that color, oh yeah, we for sure we know you a
Right.
flight risk. We
Right.
ain't letting you out.
Right. And depend on the arrest,
that?
the decision to let you go can be made by the sheriff's area, letting you out on your own recognizances at the time of arrest. The sheriff can make that decision before you even having to go before a judge or anything too. So that's a lot we don't know. Now that the bail policy and those one of the areas that I really believe we need to audit, because right now as it is, it's very discriminatory who's making those decisions of who can get out and who has to stay in the county jail and how long. You lose your job, you go through all that, you know. And like I said, it can be, when I was reading the pamphlet, I said, you mean my local sheriff could have let me out if he wanted to? Because he know I have a job.
But that's the operative word, V. If he wanted to.
Exactly. But
Nobody's
the
gonna
algorithm
want
is the
to.
same. But the law also says that you have to be treated fairly and they cannot arbitrarily make those decisions, but they do anyway. And that's where I'm seeing, that's where independent audit really should be made of the judicial systems on who gets out on OR and who really has to stay behind bars. You know, because I could have 3, 5, 6 arrests, but it's on some poppycock, not anything that's going to endanger anybody. You know. So
that's the key. That's the thing that I struggle with when you know, our more liberal people are saying defund the police, and it's not you don't want to take money away from people who are going to protect you,
right?
But you do want to be able to police the police, you know, and have community liaisons that are involved in looking at the data and looking at how many people are posting bail, what people of color, what are the offenses, and really delving into the data to understand where we need to go next.
Right, and then taking action on the data, because we know they arrest us, they stop us. You know, if you guys haven't got a chance to watch this documentary, Driving While Black, PBS is running right now, and it is absolutely, I mean, marvelous documentation on Black people, the vehicle, and just how we have just been indoctrinated with driving. But it's please book it and see it, because it is. Boom, an eye-opener of everything of our oppression and how, because we were segregated and had to be careful about where we would drive, we couldn't get hotel rooms, how many businesses that we created ourselves. We had our own, you know, economic system working. You know? So, you know, please watch it. But I think the system, I think the algorithm will screw us. I don't think it'll be any fairer than what we have now.
I'm going to throw something out there, okay? And I agree with you guys, but just know that risk adjustment data is used in everything that we do. It's already used. It's used when who scores highest on the test. It's used in medicine. It's used in evidence. It's used in everything that we do. It's used when they decide to say, you are not going to get bail. That's risk adjustment data, right?
Right.
So don't let the risk adjustment data throw you off. I think they're already using it. I think that they're just trying to bring it to the forefront, right? Because decisions are always made off of risk.
Well, that's what I was saying, Tanya, when I was referring to the healthcare, you know, and minorities and how we're getting treated in the healthcare is because of those risk assessments. And they're not treating us as individual people and really looking at all of our issues in front of us, right? They're using this risk, and one of them has to deal with our ethnicity. It has to deal with our weight. You know, these are all risk factors, and then that determines the treatment that you get. That's why we have all these people in COVID. A lot of our minorities are struggling because I'm not going to give you what I gave the president because you happen to be obese. It might not work, you know, or you happen to be a minority instead of a white male.
Or you have too many comorbidities, and no matter what I do, your system is so defunct, it's not going to help anyway. So then that
Again,
goes back,
pray until the
goes
Messiah
back,
come and go get in the corner.
Okay,
that
so
goes all the way back to inequities and food sources and all that stuff plays
Exactly.
into all that.
okay, so I do have the answer to the question about bonds. So now a regular bond, a bail bond premium, that's non-refundable. If you paid a cash bail to the court, meaning you paid the full bail amount, you will have that money returned to you after the defendant makes all required court appearances. If the person does not show up in court, that money will be forfeited and you will not see it again. And if the defendant gets arrested again while out on bail, no refund will be given. If the defendant is found not guilty, the bond is discharged. If the defendant pleads guilty, the bond is discharged at the time of sentencing. If you secured a property bond, which is the same thing as a cash bail, and the court will legally seize the property if the person does not show up in court.
Wow. Therefore, don't bail. Well, it's daunting, people. We're not going to be able to bail anybody out. We're going to be able to go to the doctor, the dialysis. Oh, my goodness, POJ. So, how are we feeling about the bail bond? Proposition 25. Is that a no or a yes?
That's the yikes.
Absolutely, Lori.
So
It's just,
yikes.
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. All right, guys. Well, that's another one we're going to leave with the question mark, I guess. But I got some exciting questions, guys, because we're getting ready to disembark this amazing time we had tonight on the Poetry of Justice show. And we always usually have a little bit of celeb information, and it's been a little daunting for me. And Big Tap, thank you for hanging in there with us, being on the East Coast, listening to all these kooky freaking propositions, but thank you for hanging and rolling with us. But this is something that I tend to think is universal, that most everyone would have some commentary on. And if you've been listening to it, but what do you guys think about? We know we've been following the story on Dr. Dre and Nicole Young and their divorce proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, I just saw the most recent thing is that Miss Nicole Young is now under investigation by the LAPD, alleged for embezzlement, I believe, of $385,000 or $65,000.
Yeah.
It was embezzlement of close to $350,000 so far, close to like $400K from his company, where I believe TMZ even showed a photo of her writing a check to herself and even signing it. So,
Gerald, Mr. Tapper, East Coast. I see the head shaking and the rump going. What's going on? What you thinking right now? What are you thinking?
Well, you know what?
Embezzlement, Shelly.
A woman unhappy might go down roads that she would never thought she would, or take chances where she never thought she would. And this woman was mad, so she just did shit. I don't know if she's that bad, but she did it. She made a mistake because I guess, you know, whatever Dre did, it got her mad enough to steal from him. Damn.
So Tap, let me just, let's you generalize so much when we talk. Let's say a man or a woman unhappy. A man or a woman unhappy will do whatever they need to do to survive.
Can you, and this is from Temple as well in our Facebook land, can you embezzle money from your husband, Shelly, if you are married? Is that embezzlement, Shelly?
I don't want to hear from me.
Yeah,
Go on, Shelly, go on, girl. Because I say,
Unleash.
No, you can't embezzle.
I don't think you can embezzle from your husband.
Exactly.
No.
You can't embezzle from your husband. You can hide it. Meg said you can hide it. You can hide it, but in the state of California, it's community property. It's our money. It's our money.
But if we make money while we were married, the money
buy you part of the company though.
It's our money.
Yeah,
so
that's the question, Shelley. So Shelley, that's the question. So we're talking, we don't know the contract. We don't know if he had her sign up on the account. We don't know if she's on the account. Do we know the details behind it? Because why is somebody bald enough to call it embezzlement if they're married? That makes me feel like.
Let me tell you something, Tanya.
Hold on. That makes me.
It's because you just have your name alone on the account doesn't mean it's just your money.
Because
Just
you're
because
married.
your name is on the account and you we were married doesn't mean it just belongs to you.
Right.
I'm gonna let you know.
So Shelley, what I'm saying is that none of us on here are attorneys. Just give me 1 second.
We're pulling it up right now, right? She's pulling up the TMZ article for us.
And Rashida, I love you for pulling up. But let me say this. None of us on here are attorneys.
Right.
But for some reason, they're caught onto the word embezzlement. Is there some information that we are missing? Because that's a bold statement when you're
Embezzlement has to do with the amount, Tanya. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? It's gone over just, but that has to do with.
I am a man. Shelley is a woman. And regardless if I'm wrong or she's wrong, the way her attitude is about men, I would just play with her and just make her mad.
It's not about men, man. It's not about men because there are men that I've been with that don't have a problem with that.
I would just play with you, Shelley. I would just say anything what you wouldn't want to hear, and I probably wouldn't even mean it. I wouldn't even mean it. I would just love to see you just lose it. I would just love to see you lose it because you do it.
Good night,
like that.
Okay, so
I wonder are they saying embezzlement because then he has a chance to recoup his money?
That's
Okay.
what I was wondering. Why they coined it.
I'm on it. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the information on what we have.
Okay.
So TMZ was told by Dre's business partner Larry Chapman recently went to the police and filed a report claiming Nicole withdrew hundreds of thousands of dollars from their business account without authorization, something Larry had previously alleged in legal letters fired off to Nicole's side in the past few weeks. In a report to LAPD, Dre's team claimed Nicole embezzled $385,029. We're told LAPD detectives are aware Larry believes Nicole is the culprit, and they're looking into it now. For the record, Dre did not file the report. As we previously reported, Dre called out Nicole for 2 withdrawals, which totaled $385K in their divorce case. Nicole has said she had a right to the money in that corporate account because her name is on it.
There you go.
If charges are brought forth from this, it's possible Nicole could do time. Nicole's legal team have previously told us Chapman's claim against her are nothing but a smear attempt and a PR stunt as she navigates her pending divorce from Dre. Her attorneys maintain she's done nothing wrong thus far. We reached out to Nicole's lawyer again about the police investigation. So far, no word back.
No comment.
No comment. No comment. You throw the mic.
No comment.
Case in point. That's all I have to say. Case
Her
in
name
point.
is
Thank you, Lori G. Thank you, Lori G.
So wait a
Anyway,
minute,
how you gonna
Rashid.
embezzle? How you gonna
You
embezzle
gonna steal
money?
your
You
own
got.
money.
How you gonna
I'm
embezzle
just
money
gonna
and you have? How you gonna embezzle money and you have change on it?
Yeah, but let me just say this.
29 cents.
But this is my point, Chris. When you are in partnership, that means there's an agreement. So what he's saying is that me and Joe have a savings account. He shouldn't go just take money out a large amount and not talking to me. Because I'd be like, motherfucker, you embezzled some shit because you didn't get authorization to do it.
But you
remember
see,
that happened.
emotionality. If my name is on the
the
account,
word embezzlement.
I can go and take
I'm
money
talking
out.
about in terms of the business world. Business partners are usually should be able to agree, or they have a statute of limitation. You can go take 5,000 anytime without asking me. When you get to a certain threshold, it needs agreement. So I'm wondering if that's why they're saying that, because he did not authorize that amount with unknown.
I don't think that. I think that they're saying that because it's a smear campaign.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound exciting? Look at us. We're talking about it.
Yeah, they want you to talk about it.
You can
say Lori Rucker gonna go to lunch.
I mean, I'm just saying, guys, we got to remember this lady is an attorney.
She is.
Hello.
She knows the rules. She knows what's allowed. She's not going to allow herself to get caught up in an illegal embezzlement.
I mean, we don't know that.
Oh, well.
We
don't know that. It's another
we don't know that. But again,
narrative.
it goes back to what Tanya was talking about. What you say, these risk factors, right? When we look at probabilities, the probability of her knowing the law is quite high if she's a licensed attorney.
I mean, there's also the probability of her knowing whether or not she's going to get caught.
How is she not going to get caught? Ray got access to the account.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right, because she's thinking, okay, if I can, his network is about what, like 82 million This is only a drop in the bucket. He ain't gonna notice that.
It's 800 million. But I don't know. I think this is also too. What about those rich individuals when they're breaking up with their wives? They go and drain everything out of their account,
Right.
and put it in someone else's name. She's just draining it first.
And we've seen that happen.
Time and time again. This is
I'm not saying that she shouldn't have access to the money. I'm saying, why are they calling it an embezzlement? Is it something that we're missing?
Because they want to win.
Is it because
That's
of the
the
business
question.
account with his buddy? Because is he
Yes.
linked?
Yeah. Because they want to win.
Yes, it's a business account through his business partner, Mr. Larry Chapman. That's who is making the claim. Dre has nothing to do with this. Dre has nothing to do with this.
Dre just didn't go down to the courthouse.
He has a chance to recoup the money.
Exactly. He wants to win.
Who stole? Was it LeVar Ball's dad? Right? Didn't he embezzle?
No, it was the business partner.
The ball kid. His father embezzled money.
Oh
no, it wasn't his father.
Something like that.
No. It wasn't his father that embezzled the money. It was a father's friend.
Okay.
That embezzled $1 million from Lonzo Ball, and then that's when he had to cut him off because he was basically sneaking money underneath the rug, basically taking money from the family, because we've seen that where these so-called business partners, because the business partner for Eazy-E embezzled millions of dollars because Eazy-E should have been making a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
going to stay silent on the Ball family. I have opinions about that.
Well, that was a fun time, guys. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen.
The medal #1 NBA draft.
That's so
I
true.
still have opinions about them.
You gonna stay silent, Lori?
I am. Yes.
Have you had a good time tonight? How you feel about the ladies of the chat and all of the players tonight? We've had Rashid in the house, Big Tab joining us, and of course Miss Chris Fisher, and welcoming back the lovely Miss Lori Rucker and the dazzling Miss Virginia Ross. So thank you all so much for joining us here tonight on the Poetry of Justice Show with Jackie Ray Phillips on yaxradio.com and acceleratedradio.net. Lori G, what do you have for us tonight as we depart?
Well, I have a special thank you for everyone on the panel. That was so great. I do want to just reiterate, guys, we got to vote. Go out and vote. I feel so good about the show tonight that I'm able to contribute to the level of awareness, to bring some clarity to individuals. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who you vote for. It matters mostly that you vote. Exercise your right, exercise your opportunity. And at least for me, I really, really want to see Donald Trump defeated. And I think our whole country
I think we all do.
Depends on that. So, grab somebody, encourage them, mail your ballots together. I don't know what's up with my mic. Mail your ballots together and watch out for those illegal drop boxes. That's one of my last things to say. The Republicans have put up these drop boxes. Do not put your ballot in one of those things and have them delivered for you. So take your own steps there. But thank you for hanging out with us.
I just wanted to ask you guys, I didn't ask you, I'm sorry, but you never mentioned the Lakers. Were you guys happy about the Lakers?
They are.
Yay,
Lakers.
LA rocks.
They are.
Yeah, we did. All right, guys.
I'm not a Laker fan.
Yikes.
But hey, congrats to LeBron on 17.
Congratulations,
2 minutes.
LA.
Yeah.
Ooh, we need that. Rocking
I'm not a Lakers fan either.
Thank you, Smeeks.
Cool.
Miko Phillips in the
I'm not
house
either.
tonight.
Thank you, Miss Miko.
Thank you so much. I
I'm not
love
the
you.
only
I'll
one.
see you soon, pretty good.
All right. Well, have a good night, guys. Thank you for going out music for us.
Sure, yeah.
Let's do something.
That was a really, really good show.
It was. Thank you all for coming. It was a great show. Thank you, Miss Lori Rucker. We appreciate your special appearance. You too, Miss Virginia Ross. Thank you for weighing in. It was great. All right, Big Tap, as always. Thank you for sitting through the California drama, right?
Oh, big time. That was fun, though. That was
All
cool.
right. Well, peace and blessings, you guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Snap pictures of you voting.
Okay, pictures of you voting, everybody.
Oh, that's true. Post your
Hey,
pictures.
Lori,
Yes.
is the chat box still open? Can we say like yes on Prop 14 and can I put yes on Prop 14, the stem cell one? So I want you guys to do yes on that one.
Facebook has been a good.
Yeah, we didn't get to 14. Yes, we can. We can say yes on 14. I think we're going out now with what you call it, Kevin Nash. So
Okay.
that's the bonds to support stem cell research. So
Yeah,
yes.
and then the other one was the grant the right for people on parole to vote. We didn't talk about that one.
Yes, that's 17. Vote yes on 17.
Yep, yes on 17. And the other one,
You said yes on 14 and 17?
Yes. And then do we want to do change the voting age to 17?
No.
No.
That's what I said. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, at that age, fact, you don't exactly know everything. Fact, you think you know everything, but
I think
rather
17 is too young.
you really don't.
Right.
Because the actual drinking age is what, 21, but then I believe the age of consent is 18.
Yeah, 18. You
Yeah,
have to be 18 to go to war.
80%.
You have to be 18 to do everything else. Why do you have to be 17 to do a preliminary vote?
Right.
And that was brought to fore by legislatures, not by petitions of citizens.
Right.
So,
okay.
well, you guys know we're broadcasting from the studio now, so we have to check out when it's our 8 o'clock hour. So,
Oh yeah.
thank you
Okay.
so much. I appreciate
All right,
you
see
all
y'all
being
later.
here.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Love the show,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Bye.
Yes.
Alrighty, bye bye.